Okay, so hopefully everybody can hear me. Hopefully everything is working now. We're going to be doing another live stream today. Just testing things out, seeing how everything goes. So today, actually, the new version of FL Studio came out, a new update, 20.5. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. I'm super stoked on it. I've been waiting for this for a while. For those of you who don't know, FL Studio 20 comes with a new plugin called Flex. It's a new synthesizer. It's, from what I hear, really amazing. So I went ahead and got it all installed, got it working. It's ready to go. And yeah, I'm going to try to make a beat completely with that plugin. Probably not, obviously, snares and stuff unless they have them in the plugin. But yeah, it's going to be mine, your first time really opening it. I opened it just to install, like just to download the sounds, but I haven't really gone through it yet. So let's go ahead and do that. If any of you guys have any questions, it looks like all my messages have been working now from Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. It looks like they all seem to be syncing and working. So I should be able to see everything that you guys are saying. So if you have any questions or anything like that, just throw those in the comments and we'll get to it. But without any further ado, let's jump over to my computer. And let's start going through some of these sounds. So first of all, we want to open up the plugin. And here is the new plugin. It's free if you own FL Studio. Basically, they haven't had any, I don't know how to really say it, high quality plugins. Like they have a couple synthesizers. They have Citrus, they have Sakura, they have a few of them, and they are really nice, but from what I hear, this one is just easier, higher quality sounds. These macros and everything and how you can lock them make a big difference when you're trying to search through sounds. So yeah, let's just jump into it and start kind of looking through it. I don't even know really what type of beat or song I want to make. But first, let me just show you some of the settings on it. So let's pick a sound. So I know it doesn't sound full quality here. I can increase it. There's going to be a little bit of doubling, but so you can hear that. And then they have all these controls over here. And what's nice about these, so say I want to add in a bunch of reverb and delay. So if I like the effect that I've added to this, but I want to try a different sound, I can lock this and start looking through sounds. Let's go to another synth. And it's going to keep those for me. Which is a huge deal if you do sound design, because usually with that turned off, every time you click into a new one, you can see they all reset. And that can get super frustrating, especially if you have your delays or reverbs or really any of these settings set a specific way and you want them to stay that way. Being able to lock those when you flip through sounds is a huge deal. Sorry, let's just make sure that it's all working. Okay, seems like it is. So that's some of the features of it. Basically, there's these locking buttons. There's these different sections of it that have really good high quality sounds. You know, so the delay has a lot of different good options. Even the limiter has the option for heating, distortion, all of that. The filters you can change to be a bunch of different kinds of filters. And then you can also attach these last two macros to something that you want, as well as seeing your waveform in a bunch of different options, which is nice. But really for me, none of that is that important. The main thing I'm always focusing on is just the sounds, making songs with it, if it's quick and intuitive and easy to use. So yeah, I'm gonna shut up for a minute and just start to try to play around with it and hopefully find a couple sounds that will work for a melody. So yeah. And today I also wanted to show off these MIDIs. So this one specifically that I'm about to use is made by Austin Hull. You guys can go look him up. great music, really good at what he does, and he has these MIDI packs. So I don't remember how much I picked this up for, but when I need a quick starting point, like something like this, trying to show off a plugin, I just use some of these chords. So let's say I just grab this one, drag it over. It's going to load in. Okay, so this one did more of notes. Let's try to find one that's more chords. Let's see if it works out. So basically it's MIDI that you can drag in. I don't like to do a lot of these complex ones unless I'm going to break it down and change the chords myself. I want to find one that's just some chords like this, and then I don't like to take someone else's melody, basically the notes on top of the chords. Because I'm going to be changing around the chords, I'm going to be moving things anyway, so it doesn't really feel like I'm stealing it or not creating it. It's just saving the time to not click in these few notes, and I don't really want to take someone else's melody and have a song that's just like everyone else's out there. But yeah, so if you basically are struggling with music theory or something like this where you're just trying to show off a plugin, or you're trying to learn music theory and you're trying to see how people write their chords and things like that, go ahead and pick up some MIDIs. There's also these ones, who was it by? I can't remember. It was, Unison, the MIDI chord pack. So that one's even better because they just have each chord broken down and you can drag in each chord one by one. So it's basically just like if you were playing it, but you're able to drag them in and not have to actually know how to play it. So little tip for you there. Let's go ahead and listen to these sounds again though. So as you can see, now I added in my own melody on top of it. I'm going to keep building it up a little bit so it's a little bit more complex of a melody. But yeah, I really like these chords starting off good. I might transpose them around a little bit, but we'll see. I probably will also grab just the chord portions like this, and then do Alt-S for strum, which will kind of strum them out a little bit, which sound a little bit more realistic, like someone's playing it. Okay, so that's not bad at all. So I'm going to go and starting to layer this song, and just finding a new few things. I'm probably going to play with the sounds a little bit once I'm done. So far, I really like this electric piano. So compared to, let's open up the old, I think it's in miscellaneous. Let's open up the old electric piano, and you can kind of hear the difference. So this is what we were working with before. This one just has a little bit more tone to it, in my opinion, like a more full sound. What up, Jenks? So yeah, let's go ahead and get back into it, start layering the sound. And again, I haven't heard any of these sounds, so I have no idea. That's why it's probably going to take me a while just to kind of go through and listen to all of them and find something. But yeah, so far all the sounds I think are sounding really clean, full, and it's a pretty easy and intuitive software to use so far. I don't see how you'd be able to make your own sound, so it doesn't seem like it's something like a Serum or anything like that. It reminds me more of like Nexus, where you just kind of click in a sound and then you can tweak it from there. So. So I'm not really liking those lead sounds specifically for this song. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and, one second. I'm going to go ahead and start to try to find more chord-based sounds, because I just don't really like those electronically lead sounds. It'd be good for a lot of EDM stuff, or really a lot of genres, but just right now I'm not feeling them too much. So let's find something that's a little bit more chord-like. It's going to sound super terrible at first till we find the real sound, but let's get to it. Okay, I see right here they have some 808s. I'm usually very particular with the 808s that I use, just to make sure that the low end is right, but let's try these out and see how they go. That clean 808 actually isn't too bad. It looks like mobile tuned bass, so I wonder if that's for FL Studio Mobile, but yeah, not too bad of a bass. So far we're coming up with a pretty good melody. I want to still make it a little bit more complex and a little bit more full, but where we're at right now is a really good starting point at least. So yeah, let's keep it going. So a good way to get started to see if your song, basically like your song's potential, is to go in and throw in a basic hi-hat and snare. There's obviously a million different ways to do it and a million different patterns of hi-hat and snares, and it really depends a lot based on genre, but it gives you a real feel for kind of how the song's going to be. A lot of times I see people put way too many instruments into their melody when they don't need it. So start trying to toss in a little bit of drums, not everything, but just a little bit so you can hear how your melody is actually going to work. Okay, so I definitely don't want to just leave it only as this 808 throughout the whole song. I think the 808, this one's probably the best one, and if you add some effects on it and everything, probably be really good. But I'm a big proponent of using just good sounds right from the beginning. So let's go ahead and find an 808 that works. Say the most common one, the Spins 808. This is the one that you hear on most songs. It's kind of got super popular quite a few years ago, and people are still using it. Most of the 808s you hear are this one, just with effects and tweaked, and people resell it. But yeah, this is the Spins 808, so it's too low right now. See, you can hear the difference here. I'll play them back and forth. Yeah, so the Spins 808 just is definitely more full, has a lot more tone to it. It's really what you need If you want something that's just a low end clean without a bunch of kind of like the rumbling in the mids and stuff like that, not really mids, low mids, then go ahead and go with the Flex. It's just like a lower pure sine type sound. But I'm going to go with this spins for right now. And what I just did was adding a kick to the 808. So I get a lot of questions. So I always talk about not having too many things in your low end so that everything basically has a spot for itself. Like the low end frequencies are really huge, big waves. So you can't fit a ton of low end information in a song. Now high end information, you can fit a lot more. The waves are super like fast. There's more space for them basically. I think the easiest place to hide things is kind of in the mids. The highs, you want to make sure that you treat them right so they don't get too harsh and brittle. Certain parts of the mids, again, you don't want them to get too like in your face and it feels like something's stabbing you in the ears. But for low end, you want to make sure that there's not too many things in your low end group, but it doesn't mean you can't layer things at all. I'm not a huge proponent of layering a bunch of kicks unless you're doing sound design and making kicks. But there's no problem with it as long as you know what you're doing, making sure everything's in phase and everything like that. So when I'm working with a kick and an 808, I'm usually picking a kick and an 808 that I've already used together before, so I know that there's no phase issues or anything like that. But what I like to do for the most part is just copy my 808 pattern to my kick pattern, and then if you do Alt-K on a computer, on FL Studio, you can pick whichever note you want it to be, right? I usually always leave it at C5, hit accept. It basically makes it so instead of the notes moving around a bunch up and down like this, the notes are just staying in one spot, but with the same timing. So the 808 by itself sounds like this. Okay, so if you're on a computer or a phone, that's probably going to be hard to hear. That's one of the reasons, again, we want to layer it if possible. But now the 808 with the kick sounds a little bit more like this. And so that right there kind of gives you more definition, something that some people go in and do. I don't usually ever do this. I've probably done this less than 30 times, but find a really short hi-hat and then layer that with the kick as well at the exact same time. And that can add just a teeny bit of like sharpness on the top of the 808 that helps it really be heard everywhere. This is good if you have a big dense mix. This is going to be a more basic song, so I probably won't keep it, but I'll show you the difference anyway. So now this is my favorite open hat ever. Again, I get in a bad habit where I use a lot of the same sounds a lot, but this one just seems to fit. It's kind of exactly what my brain pictures when it pictures an open hat. But I usually like to add one right when the beat hits. Let's see, does the Spins 808 come in FL, or do you purchase samples to drop into the channel rack? So that's a super good question. The Spins 808 specifically does not come with FL Studio. The FL Studio update that came out today added a bunch of new updates, mainly for Mac, but for all of them altogether, it added this new Flex plugin. The Flex plugin has a bunch of 808s inside of it, and then you can just add some distortion or shape them from here with your envelope shaper, things like that. The Spins 808 I bought a while ago. I don't even remember in what pack. I know there's a million versions of it floating around online, so I highly doubt it would cost more than a couple bucks, but it's a really good starting point for an 808, and then you just drag them in and drop them. But if you don't have that or you don't want to use that, like I said, there is free ones in this new free plugin that comes with FL Studio. But I know you specifically have Serum, so you can make amazing 808s in Serum also. So yeah, let's jump back into it. The beat sounding okay, sounding a little bit plain. I want to add more to it just to make it work more. Sorry, let me check the stream. Make sure everything's working. Okay. Okay, perfect. So yeah, everything seems to be working. Let me go ahead and take off. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump back into the beat. I've used quite a bit from Flex. I think I still want to use hopefully a couple more just to show off what it can do. Now that we have more of a beat, I can hear more of the pockets to put little things in. So let's get working on it. So I want this layer to be super basic, something that just floats along in the background. I know that this sounds terrible and you're probably wondering why I picked it. It's just because it has a lot of kind of frequency data in the right range, and then I'm just going to bend it and move it around from there to make it mesh more into the song. Okay, so it's starting to come together a lot more. I like this kind of like minimal beat style. Surprisingly, so if you make beats and you're trying to sell them and you've been struggling selling beats or songs or whatever you do, a lot of the time less is more. My songs that have sold the most have always been the ones that are, I think, the most open. And I think that's just because more types of artists can get on them. If people want to rap on them, they can. If people want to sing on them, they can. If people want to do something in between, they can as well. And then also people can just use them for like YouTube videos and stuff like that. So if that's your goal, is to sell them, a lot of times having these more like basic beats. I usually still try to add in one thing that makes people really dive into it. A lot of time that's a vocal sample or just something that gives it a vibe that doesn't just sound like a bunch of MIDI instruments, because that's the issue that you can run into when you're making beats, is like a lot of the sounds will just sound electronic and you kind of get to a point where everything sounds a little bit cheesy. So I'm going to look for a vocal sample just because it's easy in this case. And I'll also show you the plugin Auto Key that's going to tell you the key of your song as well. You can always just figure it out. Realistically, since we already are this far in, FL Studio in this screen right here will just show us the key. But if, again, we don't want to count out the notes or know anything or learn the scales or anything like that yet, and you just want to start getting into making music, then get this Auto Key plugin. It's like $40. Turn it on, let the beat play, and it will tell you the key. Okay, so E flat minor, so that's simple enough. So now we have the key, we know what we can use when we're looking for our vocal sample. There's a lot of different ways. You can go online and find vocal samples, you can go to Splice and find a sample, you can sing into a microphone and chop it up yourself. The easiest one that I'm going to use right now, and I use in tutorials most of the time, is one called Exhale. It's just because the samples are already chopped up for you, so it's the easiest, but you're probably going to run into some samples that other people have in their music, so it's kind of however you want to do it. If you do things properly in Exhale, then you should be fine because you can change a lot of the stuff through the engine. But yeah, so let's jump into that. Let's find something that really ties this beat together and makes it feel like an actual song that someone would want to purchase. Okay, so I'm probably going to use something like this, and then I'll try to find a sample that works, kind of chop through it and play around with it. We're actually a lot more close to done than you think. I know these tutorials take a lot longer than when I normally make beats. We're at 50 minutes in, but explaining it and everything I think is worth it. I've gotten comments when I've just not said a word and just made the whole beat that people are super confused. So I think it's a lot better to explain what I'm doing. And again, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Now's your time to get them answered. So. Okay, so now what I go through once I have that recorded in is I'm going to go through and actually just refine it, make sure all the notes are exactly where I want, change some things around, make it a little bit more dynamic so that it's kind of more of a vocal sample. Then my goal is to set it into the music so it fits in a little bit more. Yeah, let's get to it. And if you hear that first note, that very first, this one, it's a little bit quiet. So what's cool about XLs, you can go in here, actually go into the engine, and then you can pick one and actually pitch it. So if I wanted to pitch that all the way back up to, you know, the higher ones like the other ones in the, kind of like that, or I could drop it down to 0 where it will be just the girl singing, right? Oh, I don't want to pitch that one. But I like it low. I think it adds a lot of dimension to it. I just want it louder. And then you can also go into here and kind of change how the sound sounds through these little sliders. Okay, so now our goal is going to be to get this to fit into the song a little bit better. So we're going to go ahead and grab that sound. And first thing I want to add to it is a little bit of reverb. There's this new plugin, again, by Slate. It's actually by Kilohertz, but it's through the Slate All Access Pass that you can get. That is probably the most powerful plugin I've ever seen or used. This is basically multi-band, which just means it splits up the audio from low-end stuff to the high-end stuff. It splits it up into a bunch of different bands for you here. And you can add effects to just specific bands. So for this sound, I want to add some distortion to the center band. So probably not that low as 250, but you can move these around. So I would say maybe like 600-ish to 3K. And we're going to drive that up a little bit. Okay, so I like that a lot more, but I want some reverb on it. So again, in the high end now, I can add in reverb. So it's not reverbing the whole sound, it's just reverbing the high end, which is huge. Anybody that does sound design knows that this type of plugin is insanely powerful. So let's get to it. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and start kind of doing a quick mix. So first of all, I want to grab everything and turn it down a bunch because I can hear distortion and clipping and a bunch of bad stuff happening, which isn't going to help, especially for you guys listening, because Facebook destroys the sound quality. Like, when I play back the videos, it sounds like a completely different song when I listen to it through Facebook and then here in person. But turn everything down so we're getting a lot more normal of a range on this master meter here. So that's kind of how I get it up to the volume that it needs to be quickly and roughly. That's going to really distort the sound for you guys, so I'm going to turn that off. It might get a little bit quieter for you, but it's going to sound a lot better. So we're pretty close to done. I'm going to go through, name all the sounds, and actually I'm not going to name them, that's fine. I'm just going to go through and make this a final song. So I'm going to delete out that Flex 808. I'm actually going to add in one more 808, or not 808, but a bass sound. So let's go ahead and add in, let's see if there's one in that new Flex. Sounds like a good idea. So we're going to add in this, and let's look for, let's see if you can search for bass. Is that how you search? Oh, here we go. Bass. Basic. So here's some basses. Let's try to find a good one. Okay, so far I'm not really liking the basses. I'm sure if I go through and listen to all of them, I might find one. Let's try trap sub. Yeah, so if you're making like EDM, stuff like that, these are going to be really good sounds for you. For this type of song, it doesn't fit that well, so I'll find something else. I'm going to go ahead and replace it with Trillion. Yeah, no problem. What up, Shaquille? How's it going? Coming into the shop later today. Hopefully you'll be there. I'm going to come and get my arm worked on by Tunes. Yeah, so I'm going to be there for a couple hours. I'm going to take my camera and try to get some new photos of everybody in the shop and everything like that. So stoked on that also. So let's go ahead and find a synth sound that's going to work. Let's do bass acoustic. Oh, what's going on? This is what happened yesterday with Trillion. Trillion's been acting up. Like it won't change no matter what I change on it. Which I'm not really quite sure why. I've never had this issue. Like no matter what I click, it doesn't want to load it. Just fails all around in this one. I still need a different type of bass, so I'm going to do what I always do. I'm going to end up using that that retail bass, that Cash Money from the Kuntak kit, this retail bass. I use it way too often. I'm trying to not use it as much, but it's just perfect and it works for almost everything. So I'm going to go ahead and set up this one so that we can have a good bass for a breakdown. Okay, so something I like to try when when I add in the bass and it starts to feel like a little bit more hyped of a song. I mean, we're at a pretty high BPM, 155. Something else that I want to try is going to be to double the melody speed. So we have this melody right now. Oh, come on. So something that works every once in a while, I would say 1 out of 5 times, is if you just grab the melody and duplicate its speed like that, and then double it over. Oh, make sure you grab the right amount. Double it over. Then you can kind of get something that matches the tempo a little bit more. I think it's not going to work, but we'll test it. Yeah, it doesn't work. But it's good to always try things, see if it works out. So grab all those, delete them. All you got to do is just drag everything back out, hold Alt, and it will keep you on the grid. Okay, so now let's lay it out. All you got to do from this point, I'm going to go ahead and delete these two because we didn't use them. Actually, let's grab this and drag it onto the piano. Okay, I think that actually added a lot. I might pitch it down. And I might find a slightly different piano, but it's starting to come together. We're literally almost done. Okay, so all we do from here is make sure we're on this channel that has our whole loop on it. We go to patterns up here, we click split by channel. That's going to break everything down into these little chunks over here on the side. We go to our playlist, switch it to song mode, grab, click the very top one, hold shift, click the very bottom one, and drag all of them into a blank channel. That's going to bring them into your session like this. And then from here we can start layering things out super quick. So what I like to do is just make sure everything's the same length. Control A to grab everything, Control B to paste, Control A to grab everything again, and then B to paste until you hit 49. That's usually a good spot to start because that's when a hook can come back in and it starts to work. So we've had quite a few people join. Thanks to everyone who's watching. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and start layering this out. Again, in the intro, a lot of the times you don't need a bunch of these instruments. A lot of the times if you keep stuff out, then when the hook hits, it sounds bigger and better. So let's find something in the intro that works as kind of a vibe for it, and let's get going. So I'm going to make this vocal sample unique by clicking it right here, make unique, and I can chop it up and change things. So for the intro, I don't want to have as much. So you'll see how I do it. I want it to build into the hook right here, so let me just do this so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So this right here is going to be where the hook comes in, right? Right there is the intro. Then we're going to go to verse. The verse is going to come in right here. Pre-hook, or the end of the verse, whichever you want it to be, or whatever the artist wants it to be, is right there. And then the hook too is going to start right here where all this ends. So you can kind of see how it's going to be laid out a little bit. So usually the hook has a lot of the most exciting stuff in it, and we want to make sure that we can kind of emphasize that. So let's keep this bass, the one that we made that second bass, only for the breakdown right here. So the breakdown is going to be a lot like the intro, maybe with some different sounds. So probably not the vocal sample, maybe just this. Like that. And then for the hook, we want it to kind of build into this. We also have two parts of the hook. So we have this first little 8-bar and then this one, if you see it. So what I want to do for that is change it around a little bit by not adding in the piano yet, not adding in the pluck, and not adding in the synth. We'll add that on the second part of the hook, and then we might change up something like the hats or something like that if we need to. Let's actually just take away the tambourines and the rim, and then this sound. So perfect. So now you can kind of see, even though the hook is going to be a lot more full, it's still less full than the second part of the hook. Then when the second part of the hook is done playing, we go to the verse where we want stuff to change around quite a bit. So now I might keep just this piano, and let's see, let's do just those two pianos. No 808 for right now. We'll bring in a kick halfway into the first 8 bars. We obviously don't need that super fast hi-hat anymore. And let's take out that one. And then, yeah, let's see how this sounds. Okay, so I'm realizing that without a bass, this song sounds a little bit flat, not much to it. So when that happens, what I like to do is just grab that breakdown bass and use it for the verse as well. So we kind of change back and forth between the bass that hits, like an 808, to just the more drawn out bass. Okay, so right there we have a rough idea of the song. So what we're going to do is copy everything from the hook and Control B to duplicate it. So now you can see the hook has been copied. And if you want me to do this again, you can see how I'm doing it. Verse 2 then comes in right here. Right here. And then we have pre-hook again. Right here. And then we have the final hook of the song that we're going to have at the very end right here. So what I need to do is grab the hook again, copy it over, and then we need an outro. So for the outro, for this example, we'll just use the same breakdown and we might change it just a little bit. I like to grab everything with one extra bar at the end, come down to here to my mix bus, right click it, create automation clip, and then have it fade out. That's a simple way to do a little fade out like that. Then, me being OCD also, I like to put all my different elements into folders so I know what things are. Just like that. You can also auto color everything. So, and then if you want to go through and auto name everything as well, that will kind of color the tracks for you. It's really just so that everything can be color coordinated. You know exactly what you're looking at. So every time I open a session, I know everything that's this like blue, purple color is my drums, and everything that's green is my melody elements. So drag those in like this. Now, as you can see, everything in this beat is very kind of squared off. Like everything starts and stops right here. There's not a lot of transitions. That's something I'm going to get into in some future videos. But for now, don't worry about that. It's not as important as just getting things down. So it is better to try to figure out ways to move things and have things breathe and build with each other. But at first, just start getting ideas down. You can always work on things later and improve from there. So yeah, you can see now the song is laid out into a rough example of the song. I guess just to, you know, stay true to what we're doing, we'll add the outro so you can see where it's at. So then we have intro, hook, verse, pre-hook, hook, verse 2, pre-hook, hook, outro. Things build in and out. We have something that draws people's attention in, like that vocal sample right from the beginning. We've done a little bit of mixing on everything so that things are loud enough. Now, really all we have to do, and we don't even really have to do it, but it's just a good idea, is to add in a couple more things. So what we want to do, if possible, and if it works with the song, is go and try to find an impact. Sorry. Jesus Christ, that was super loud. So let me actually turn this off for right now. So let's get an impact. Let's get a riser. So let's just use this one. Just grab whichever one. Call it riser. Put it into this folder. Let's find an impact. Call it impact. And then I usually like one more transitionary sound, so I'm going to use the one that I really like a lot. I've been using it for a long time. Whenever I don't know which transition to use. It's this plain sound right here. I call this transition. And then basically what we're doing is we're building a spot so that the transitions can be a little bit cleaner. So let's go to right where the hook comes in right here. Let's make sure everything hits right on. So put that spot right on where the bar starts. Make sure this one ends right here because that's where we have the entire beat cut out. If you see right there, we're going to line it up with that where that cuts out, and then we'll put this one right on that first bar. We want to go into everything and turn it down quite a bit because as you heard, they're super loud. Okay, and I really don't like that impact. I'm going to change that one around to something with more of a kick in it. But yeah, you can see kind of where we're getting with it. Okay, so now that we have that, we're going to transfer it over to the other spots where we have a hook. The only thing we'll have to move really is where this impacts. So say we want to cut off this pre-hook at 1 bar in, 1 bar before instead of half a bar. We want to zoom in and make sure that we realign that to be right at the 1 bar mark. Just so it always kind of feels like it builds until that drop, and then the other sounds come in. Okay, so from here, really, you're pretty much done. If you're going to be selling these beats, again, always have a beat tag. It saved me quite a few times already. Just click it and drag it in, and then just make sure you align it wherever you want it. So I usually do it right in that same drop. So 1 bar before, cut it right there, and then just copy and paste it over to everywhere that you need it in the song. So I usually do it this exact same way. Beginning of the hook, end of the hook, somewhere in the middle of the verse. Beginning of the hook, end of the hook, beginning of the hook, end of the hook, and then I just delete that last one. That way my beat tag is going throughout the entire beat. And you obviously don't keep this on if someone's going to buy the beat. This is just if they are streaming it or it's a test copy and they want to try to record to it. You don't leave your beat tag on. Sometimes people want one right in the beginning, just one. But yeah, don't leave it on throughout the entire beat. Now let's set the level. Okay, so now we're going to turn on the final limiter, make sure we get it to the right volume. It's going to sound super compressed and crazy on your end, but yeah, this is how we finish it up. So I'm going to turn down my interface, and I'm going to go into here. I'm going to turn back these plugins on. Okay, and there you go. There is the finished and complete beat. I need to get this process down quicker. Usually when I'm not streaming, it's 15-20 minutes, not an hour and 22 minutes. But again, like I said, explaining what I'm doing while I'm going, I think is going to make a big difference and help you guys out. So I got a couple questions while I did this stream. Remember, if you have any other questions, put them in the comments below. If you want to help anyone else out, share these videos. Yeah, so another song down. I might be jumping on later. I'm going to go get a tattoo today. So I might not be, depending on how everything goes and how I feel afterwards and if I have time. So might be jumping on. If not, thanks everybody for watching. I'll let this beat go ahead and loop through a couple times. And yeah, peace out.
got the heat.